Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
Indie rock band The Wedding Present was formed in Leeds in 1985, achieving a huge critical success with its debut album, George Best. 40 years and 300 songs later, the band is still going, albeit not with its original lineup, and artistic director of Engine House Theatre and Wedding Present fan Matt Aston has written and is directing a new musical based on a small selection from the band's back catalogue and named after their own record label at the start of their career, Reception. You can hear me speaking to the writer of those songs, David Gedge, later in this episode, which was a special treat for me as a long-time fan. But first, I managed to catch up with Matt during rehearsals, and I asked him when he first came across the songs of The Wedding Present.
So I've been a Wedding Present fan since the late 80s. It was my first gig, The Wedding Present, in October 1988. I was 15, so I shouldn't have been there. But I went with my brother and his mates, who were a bit older, and they'd been to see the band the week before in Birmingham. And we drove, I used to live in Warsaw, so I grew up. And we went up the A38 to in Derby on a Monday night at a nightclub called Confetti's that's not there anymore. And they kind of sneaked me in. I was in the middle as we sneaked past the bouncer. And I'd never been to a concert of any kind from a band point of view. And I was stood at the back thinking, this is okay. It's quite sedate, student support band. Everyone's very polite. And then the kind of, just for The Wedding Present came on, the lights went down, and there was this, as they came on, this surge of kind of noise and energy and everything kind of towards the stage, as kind of David Gedge, the lead singer, kind of went, hello, we're The Wedding Present, and this is in French, in his kind of Yorkshire deadpan kind of voice. And I lurched forward and had a massive nosebleed and had to be helped over the crowd into the toilet. And then I kind of came back and stood at the back and was completely transfixed by this whole gig going thing. It was magnificent. And I've talked about this a lot, actually, whether it was, I think it was just the perfect storm of the band. I like the music, and also just that first gig experience. I've been with my older brother as well. Him letting me come out on a night out with him was just unheard of. And then that was that, really. And then that next 6-7 years, we as a kind of group of friends, my group of friends and my brother's group of friends, just went to gigs and festivals, and we went to some amazing things. We saw like Nirvana in a pub in Birmingham. We saw the Stone Roses in a working men's club in Warsaw. It was all kinds of amazing gigs. And then as life kind of carried on, The Wedding Present was just a band I kept going back to, and just kind of, they really kind of stuck with me over the years. And as the band developed and the albums developed, he also had another band called Cinerama, which was very, very different in terms of music. Yeah, the songs just kind of stuck with me, really.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you. My first gig was Adam and the Ants at the Apollo in Manchester in the early
wonderful.
80s.
How wonderful.
And they are not still going, but The Wedding Present have kept going for all these years, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, he's had a variety of lineups, David, but he's kind of kept going. And I mean, I was at their kind of annual festival at the weekend in Brighton doing a Q&A with him on stage, and 3 of the actors came down with me to do some of the songs from the show. And it's astonishing, the kind of the loyalty of the fan base and his kind of longevity and his persistence, really. He's one of the nicest men in the pop and rock world, so I'm told. And he's also just the hardest working as well. He's an astonishing man in his mid-60s now, and he's just kind of just keeps going, and he keeps writing fantastic tunes. He's written a new song that's in the show, in fact, and it's still as good as ever. And it's amazing that he can still write these tunes. And they just, for me and a lot of people of my generation, having spoken to a lot of people over the weekend, they just do stick with you. And I've seen his bands over 50 times over the years. So they would do something right from a fan point of view, anyway.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They stick with you. And I remember I bought George Best, the album, because I was sick of reading about it in the NME about how good it was, and I'd never heard them before, and I bought it. And, those songs from that first album, they still stick. I can still recite some of the lyrics to them.
Absolutely. And the thing is, his lyrics are so, and this is a compliment, so down to earth and relatable.
Yeah.
They will stay with you. And that is, it's one of the all-time great breakup albums, isn't it, George Best? I mean, I think especially that kind of, I was 15, 16, 17, as I say, when I first became a fan, when I was at my most emotionally immature. They kind of got me through some dark moments as I had my heart broken one day and then soared a few days later with someone else. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Well, they take both sides of relationships, really, don't they? Because you've got something like My Favourite Dress, which obviously is a really sad breakup or post-breakup song. And then you get when he sings, I must have walked past this doorway 30 times just trying to catch your eye. It made it all worthwhile when you return my smile. It's just beautiful, isn't it?
That's one of the things he said, because I was talking on Saturday in Brighton about the show and about how, you know, his lyrics, there are some really heartbreaking moments. And he went, yeah, but I want to make it clear that not all my songs are all about heartbreak and things going wrong. And that's one of the taglines for the show, is that it is about, you know, love gone wrong, love gone right, and then love gone wrong again, and kind of breakups, breakdowns, and all that kind of stuff. And it's but the songs themselves are kind of, even at their most kind of melancholy, there's something quite celebratory about them as well, and in some respects.
Yeah. And they all tell little stories of their own, but what made you think you could bring all of those little stories together into a greater narrative?
Well, I started directing about 23 years ago, and at no point did I really think that I'd ever even consider doing a musical with their songs. And then I saw David do an evening with the BBC band here at Leeds Playhouse about 16, 17 years ago. It's part of a fused festival where they put like different artists together. And the arrangements for the songs were so different. You know, it was kind of almost kind of Frank Sinatra style, kind of easy listening. It was, and I kind of just, a seed was planted then. And then some years later, about 2016, 2017, the Cinerama did a gig in London at the O2 in Islington, and they had a 16-piece orchestra. And I was with a writer mate of mine, Billy Ivory, and I said to Billy, I thought, this is musical theatre. The way that these songs are constructed, this could all work, because they were doing like some wedding present songs in Cinerama style with like strings and woodwind and brass, etc. And Billy, Billy doesn't drink, but I'd had a few, and I was going, oh, it's definitely a musical, a musical. And he was going, it's not, you idiot, it's not. And then kind of it just started to kind of formulate a little bit then as a possible idea. And I have to stress that if I didn't think it was going to work, I just wouldn't have bothered carrying on thinking about it, because, you know, I've got enough projects I can work on, and I'm a big fan of the band. I didn't want to ruin that in a way, you know. So, yeah. But I just started to kind of make lists of songs and lyrics that could work in a story. And I got I had this kind of idea of this story about a group of friends finishing university and like keeping in touch over a number of years, and then that kind of, I moved to York, and my kids go to the same school as a guy called Tony Herrera, who is the owner of Clue Records and Come Play With Me Records, who releases the wedding present stuff. So I got talking to him saying, I've got this kind of outline of an idea for a musical with the band's music. And he went, well, I'm seeing them next week. I'll mention it to David and we'll go from there. And David kind of said, okay, I'm a bit nervous about musicals, I'm not sure. But he agreed to meet up, and he came up to York, and we had a big meeting about it, and went from there. And I kind of explained, I kind of roughed out the idea a bit more and explained how the songs might work in a narrative, in a story. And he said, well, yeah, let's give it a go. And then unfortunately that was a month before lockdown. So that's when it all kind of stalled for a while, you know, because you can't do much when theatres closed down for 18 months unexpectedly.
Yeah. So how much has he been involved? Has he left you to it, David, or has he been more involved?
Yeah, I think he's been brilliantly supportive throughout, and he's been the best support he's given in a way is by keeping it at arm's length, by just kind of, you know, being informed of things as we go along. So I mean, one of the first things we did after it went to lockdown, we did a crowdfunding for me to kind of get some money in the pot for us to do some script development and R&D. So over that 18 months, I wrote a couple of drafts of the scripts, and then we got a bunch of actors together to do a reading and a bit of R&D on the words. And the general consensus at that reading was that Act 1 was really, really good, and that Act 2 really, really wasn't, although that wasn't the words they used. Yeah. So that made me go away and rewrite it again. And he's read the scripts as we've got along. He's commented on when kind of songs might work, and also we've asked the question that we can edit songs as we go along. So sometimes we have to kind of elongate songs when we've got a lot of dialogue in the middle of them, or we've cut things down. We've kind of changed lyrics a few times as well to make it fit with the story. And generally, it doesn't feel like we're shoehorning songs in. It feels like that it adds this story. As I say, this group of friends who meet up at a variety of receptions, because as you may know, the first couple of years of Wedding Present releases were on Reception Records. Yeah. So that's where the title came from, and the idea of them meeting at graduation ceremony, stag/hen do, a funeral, the wake, and then a wedding reception. So that as that's developed, he's been really, really, really supportive. Even like this weekend just gone, when we went down to Brighton, and he heard the kind of arrangements for the first time, and you could see he was kind of welling up during the songs, because they sounded so different but so beautiful.
Yeah. I've seen the photo of you all together, so I know he's been to rehearsals, but there's you on one end and him on the other, and the cast in between, I can't see any who looked like they might have been around in the 1980s. So
no, there's one who's the dad, but even he looks really young, which didn't help. I mean, I've never felt older that first day of rehearsals, and wonderful, because they, the energy that the cast bring, and then the community ensemble who are volunteers, for want of a better phrase. They're kind of early career, kind of final year dance students who are supporting the show, and they are just magnificent. But they're even younger. But the energy, as I say, in the room is wonderful. But yeah, that first, both me and David, and Tony came along as well. The three of us, kind of all in our kind of 50s or 60s, looking like their grandfathers. It was quite the sight. Yeah,
I can imagine rehearsals. It might be tempting to fill them with anecdotes of what it was like in the 1980s. Have you had to teach them a little bit about what it was like?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, like the designs for it and the costumes are very much kind of 1985, 1987, and we had a big costume fitting day last week, and they look fantastic. But yeah, we've had, as we go along, we've kind of because a lot of the show, obviously, there's bits of me and stuff that's happened to me over the years, and there's bits of what happened to David as well. It's very much not a not biopic, but it's not a biography on stage, as it were. It's a news story, but there's little elements of David, like one of the characters goes to America for a year or so, which is what David did, back in early 2000s. So it's kind of there's little elements there, but yeah, we've had to kind of explain what it was like, and saying that if you went to a pub or you were going to meet in a pub at 8:00, you had to be there. You couldn't just like text and go, "I'll be there in a bit." It was just. I mean, and that was what it was like for me at university. 'Cause I didn't get a mobile till late 90s, 98, 99 or something. So it was just, it was a completely different time, which obviously they've not experienced.
Yeah, the idea of having to go home to wait for a phone call is just completely alien now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone coped. I mean, because sometimes I quite like the fact I can turn the phone off and not, but it was just that level of communication and kind of sitting on the stairs waiting for someone to phone me or for them to answer the phone back. Yeah, it's just completely different.
Yeah. So how have Wedding Present fans responded to the news of this? I can imagine there might be some who will be a bit dubious.
Yeah, I think there's been some really, really positive feedback. I mean, like the original crowdfunder, we had lots of support on that, and ticket sales have gone well as we marketed to just Wedding Present fans to begin with. There is some kind of not skepticism. There's some kind of doubts.
Yeah,
but I suppose it's from one or two from like the real hardcore. However, and this is kind of literally, as I say, I keep going back to the Saturday in Brighton. It was packed. It was packed in the Concord 2 for our kind of half an hour slot. David interviewed me for 10, 15 minutes, and then the actors came on to do their stuff, and things were photographs were a photographer in the room taking some shots. And they said to me afterwards, you could palpably feel kind of Wedding Present fans who might have been a bit doubtful to start, kind of having their minds changed.
Right.
I mean, it helps that we had three brilliant singers, and they're all active musicians, so they all took it in turns to play piano. But we did Hard, Fast and Beautiful, a Cinerama song, and then Perfect Blue, a kind of relatively modern Wedding Present song, and we did My Favourite Dress. My Favourite Dress is done in the show just on a piano, and it's in a really difficult scene in a wake, and this kind of couple who are having a bad time, and the response in the room, as I mentioned, David was running, and I had about 50 people through the rest of the day coming up to me saying, we were just in tears, in bits, and like, and people like kind of go on their phones checking they could get to Leeds and stuff. But I think that as I said on Saturday, as I've said a number of times, is if Wedding Present fans who are normally happy to kind of give it a chance, because David has done different weird and wonderful things over the years, and this is another example of that. So I think they will give it a chance, and what the hope is that Wedding Present fans there'll be enough there for them to get sucked into the musical theatre side of things, and then theatre fans will then realise that as a new musical, his and their songs work as well. So that's kind of the plan and the hope.
Yeah, I suppose it helps that you're there to sort of validate it as theatre, and he's there visibly supporting it as well.
Exactly. Well, I mean, exactly. He's that going back to kind of his involvement, that him kind of legitimising it, and he did on Saturday night, as the Wedding Presents played on Saturday night. He made a special mention to the actors and to me, and there was a lovely reaction from the crowd. So I think that really, really helps that he's on board, and he is. I think he's kind of been, as he said on Saturday, it's very surreal. Him sat there hearing his songs being sung by brilliant singers.
Yeah,
because as he said, he's not the best singer in the world. He's a unique singer in many ways, but he said it was just wonderful to hear it. And I mean, all the rest of the band were backstage, and they were all in tears as well as at the end. It was great, which is what you want, isn't it? Make them laugh or make them cry, one of the two, isn't it?
Yeah, making them cry sometimes more difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What was the selection process like? Because, like you say, they've done a wide variety of things. They've done a lot of songs as well, haven't they, over the years? A lot of albums.
There's 300 songs apparently, including B-sides and God knows what else. Yeah, it was tricky, and it continues to be so, because I mean, when one of the early drafts was about 9 hours long with about 83 songs in, so we had to kind of cut that down. And yeah, it's been tricky. And even today, I've just cut a song today that is one of my favourite Wedding Present songs. But as my associate director pointed out, it's not serving the story at that point in the show, and so it's the right decision. But it's kind of really well, yeah, especially when it's a song that's been in there from the start.
Yeah.
I think you have to kind of balance it in terms of there's obviously these kind of popular songs. I mentioned my favourite Dress, Brass Neck, Kennedy, Go Out and Get 'Em Boy. It absolutely makes sense for those songs to be there, and they all kind of work story wise. And then there's as you mentioned, there's such a wide variety of songs. We've got 2 or 3 B-sides in there that work for the story and are good songs anyway. So it was always about that balance of kind of songs that are known for the fans, but also that they work for the show as a whole. And as I say, that process has continued these last 2 or 3 weeks.
And the style of his songs, and possibly the style of the way he sings them as well, is so conversational. Did that make it easier, sort of merging it in with the dialogue? Yeah.
So I mean, and we made a lot of the songs duets and trios and stuff. So you got different people singing at different times, and that really helps.
Yeah.
And one of the early drafts, I mean, what I wanted to avoid is that thing of like dialogue, song, dialogue, song. So one of the processes from draft 1 to where we are now is to kind of inhabit the songs with dialogue. And I think we've pretty much done that really well. I mean, in terms of how the actors have helped to shape that over the last few weeks. But the conversational style has helped massively, definitely.
You mentioned before about the crowdfunder. Musical theatre is expensive. New writing is expensive, and you've got quite a large cast. So, what was it like trying to raise the money to put it on?
Oh, it's a nightmare. Theatre is theatre's a nightmare. It's a really ridiculous career that I chose. We've had some brilliant support, crowdfunding and investment, and some and ticket sales. It will it will live or die with the ticket sales. Luckily, it's gone well.
Yeah.
We need some more. The crowdfunding, there's this kind of latest one. We've still got a bit to go to help. We want to kind of give as much support to the community ensemble as possible. So we launched an extra crowdfunder about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's got another week to go. If people search for a reception crowdfunder, Wedding Present musical crowdfunder, there's a few quid still to be raised there. But every new show, whether it's a play, a two-hander, a new children's theatre, a new big old musical like this, it's just hard work to get it off the ground. And it's tight, but we'll be all right.
And it's in Leeds. It's set in Leeds. I noticed quite a few of the cast are from Leeds or studied in Leeds. Was that important, or is it just the way it happened?
But I mean, yeah, because I mean, David was born in Bramley, just outside Leeds City Centre, and obviously came to Leeds University. So it was always going to be Leeds set and Leeds kind of dominated, as it were, because he lived here, for 15, 20 years after he finished university. And it was only when him and his then long-term partner split that he moved to Seattle. And then when he came back, he moved to Brighton. So there's one scene in Brighton, which is the kind of stag/hen do. But no, it was really important that it was Leeds. And it was really important to get as many Leeds, not Leeds voices, people who knew the city. So the conservatoire here in the city have been really helpful in terms of auditions. And we've got a graduate from this year playing one of the leads, which is in the show, which is great. And I think there's 6 or 7 cast members and creatives who have kind of got a history with the conservatoire, which is great. And then 2 or 3 are from Leeds or just outside Leeds as well. Yeah.
And are there any plans, or is any whisper that it might go further?
Well, you never know, do you? I mean, we've had some interest from one or two venues who are coming to see it if there was going to be a future tour. And back before COVID, there was one of the original ideas was to tour it. I think that we had so many knockbacks and so many full starts after COVID that we just wanted to get it on in Leeds. And it's fortuitous that it's happening with the band's 40th anniversary this year as well. So it kind of all works in that respect. We'll see. I mean, we've got producers coming to see it. I think that, it unpacks and works as a show, and that the music and the songs work. Who knows? We still don't know how good it's going to be. I think it'll be great. I think it'll be great. But, with a new piece of work, you never know. So it's about people taking a risk on it and a punt. I said the other day that I think that I'm looking at this as the start of the journey for the show rather than the end. But, we have to get a lot of people on board. And I said to the fans on Saturday, it's about kind of getting you to support it now and coming to see the show and buying tickets so that then we can then give it the best chance of success on this run. And then we'll see the future look after itself, really.
That was Matt Aston, director of Reception, the Wedding Present musical. The songs that inspired this show were written by David Gedge, founder and lead singer of the band. I asked David what his reaction was when he was told that someone wanted to make a musical from his songs.
Well, kind of disbelieving, really, to be honest. I met Matt probably about 6 years ago now, and he's came to me and said, we have a mutual friend called Tony, and he said, I'd like to make a Wedding Present musical. And he started kind of telling me about it, and I kind of stop you there because I don't know anything about musicals whatsoever. Something I've never really been that interested in, to be honest. I'm not even sure I like him, really. and he said, well, leave it with me, because he said that he felt that my lyrics were perfect for it, and I can see that because people have said that before. If you ever see my lyrics written down, it's almost like a dialogue or a monologue from a play or a book or something. So I kind of said, okay, and so that was years ago. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll never see him again. I'll never hear from him again. But then it was quite a few years, obviously, because of the pandemic and everything. But then he got in touch with me fairly recently and said, right, I've written the script. Sort of showed me a draft. And he said, it's all going ahead. We're auditioning people. We're starting rehearsals. And so, yeah, it's, surprising, but I'm very flattered, obviously, that someone feels there's enough material there to actually do something at a completely different medium. So I'll be as interested as anybody else to see how it all works out, really.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of material for him to choose from. Yeah, I think he said there were about 300 songs he had to go through. Yeah. So you've done quite a lot over the past, it's 40 years now, isn't it?
40 years, yeah, so it adds up. But no, yeah, that was one of the good things, I think, because, because people say, is it about me? Or the Wedding Present? It's not, obviously. It's a fictional drama. But there's so much about me in those songs.
Yeah.
Because they're all quite personal and about relationships and things. And it's based in Leeds in the mid-'80s when the Wedding Present started. So I'm kind of in it without being in it, if you know what I mean. But he had a lot of, I think it was quite easy for him, in that respect. Once he had his basic ideas, and I think maybe his plot even was inspired by some of the songs, I think. And then he just kind of looked for another one that carried on from, where that one left. And it's one thing I've done really is analysed relationships over the years, how people meet, how people fall in love, sort of through the whole kind of sort of emotions of lust and jealousy and all that kind of thing. And then people break up and then there's remorse and all that stuff. So it's all there really, the whole universe of relationships.
Everything for a love story, every aspect of it. He was saying when I spoke to him, he said you objected to people saying that it's all breakup songs, but it's not at all, is it? I mean, you cover something like A Million Miles, which was one of my favourites from the start. I mean, that's the start, or potentially the start of a relationship, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I've always tried to do that, but I don't know whether the breakup ones are better or whether people kind of identify with them more. Maybe they're more poignant. Singing about a broken heart or something. But they're the ones. That's what I'm always tagged with. It's always he's the master of writing these breakup stuff. But like you say, I think there's plenty of other ones which are not about that, which are actually I'm fairly proud of, shall we say?
Yeah, I found a quote on allmusic.com. I don't know if you've had this quoted back to you. Michael Sutton on allmusic.com. Often the songs are often written from a seemingly autobiographical perspective and sung in a dejected conversational manner. I don't know whether he's not met a Yorkshireman before, but what?
No, where's he from? American or something. Because I think Americans think, British people are quite dour in general. So if you meet Yorkshire people, they'll take that to its next step, really. But it's just the way people kind of view it, isn't it? And obviously people got different perspectives. So
very sort of conversational. Where does that come from? What was it inspired your style of songwriting, do you think?
Well, funnily enough, I had a band before the Wedding Present called the Lost Pandas, and it was based in Leeds as well, and we did a few demo tapes and sent them to John Peel and stuff like that. And the lyrics weren't really like the Wedding Present. They're kind of a bit more kind of poetic and a bit more metaphorical, and have all this kind of imagery in it and stuff. And I was never totally happy with it. I always felt it was a little bit pretentious. And then my girlfriend at the time, she kind of agreed with me and said, you're a big fan of the Velvet Underground. Even though Lou Reed writes about pimps and, drug pushers, you know what he's saying, because it's conversations and it's little stories set in New York, I guess, or whenever, or wherever. And she said, why don't you just do that, So I kind of had a little bit of a wake-up call there. And it kind of got... It was quite timely because the Lost Pandas finished and the Wedding Present started. And at that time, I did kind of re-investigate the way I wrote lyrics, and I got a lot more personal and, looked at my diaries and, got ideas from that really. I think it's, I've never looked back, because I think it suits me very well. I'm very good at it, and I'm very, I'm quite observational about the way people kind of talk to each other and what they say and how they say it and why they say it. Yeah. And not even just in real life, in books and films and TV and stuff. So I'm just fascinated with it. And I think it's always good to, to write about things, A, that fascinate you, and B, that you can put yourself into it really, So, and I also, it's an ideal subject for writing pop songs. If you go back to like Motown, they usually love songs and rock and roll and then punk even. It's I think there was I suppose the more memorable kind of lyrics and things, aren't they? So
you don't necessarily expect those sorts of love songs from rock indie type music, though, I suppose. Do you? Maybe you do expect something a bit more dour or a bit more serious.
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe that. Yeah, that's what that's my. What's the word?
Selling point, unique selling point, sort of thing.
Yeah, USP. That's the one, isn't it? Maybe that's my USP then.
But maybe it took that when you're young and you're still trying to find your own style. Maybe it takes that little nudge from somebody who knows you to stop you being pretentious and get you to find what's really you. Does it? Yeah,
it was a good move, and like I say, I've done it ever since, really. So. Yeah. I've actually, because I've got an autobiography that I'm doing. I don't know if you know, it's a comic book. So I've got one here, actually.
All right.
That's volume 1, and there's been volume 2, and we actually wrote about that little exchange in there because I thought it was quite important in the story, really, the way that I changed my lyrical style and kind of started writing more personal stuff, really.
Yeah, and I like writing lyrics. I've been writing them recently. Do you actually enjoy writing lyrics? It's difficult for a writer whether they enjoy it or not, isn't it?
I mean, I find it really difficult, to be honest.
Yeah.
I spend a long time over them, probably far too long. I spend days on lyrics sometimes. You think it's a 3-minute flipping song,
yeah.
What? I've spent half a week on it. And, but then, there's obviously enjoyment when when it's finished and you're proud of it. Even though it's never really finished either, you always think, you go back and even though it's recorded and you're playing it live, you're thinking, oh, I wish I could have changed that line now because I thought of a better one. But occasionally you get excited because you think of a killer line or a title or something that really works.
Yeah,
that's enjoyable. But I think a lot of it is just I like a lot of music. So just putting things together. Hoping for that magic to kind of appear when certain things fall into place, the lyrics and the music and the arrangement and everything, and the instrumentation and stuff. So it's the same with concerts. We'll do a really amazing concert and I'll go on the merchandise afterwards, and people are saying, "Oh, I bet you really enjoyed that." And I'll be like, "Well, I mean, to be honest, it's probably not what you want to hear, but no, I found it quite stressful because." My guitar pedal was breaking, or I forgot the words, or broke a string at a place where I needed to have that guitar string. So it's actually quite. I find it quite hard work, really.
Yeah, it's like when actors sometimes forget a line. They to them it's the end of the world, but to the audience they don't always notice.
Yeah.
But over 40 years of songwriting and record making. Do you still look back on those early songs with pride, or do you not look back on them at all?
Yeah. So I think I'm proud of everything that we've released, really, because I wouldn't have released it otherwise. I don't think. I mean, there's a couple maybe that are not as good as the others, but just in general, I mean, I think we got better. When I listen to George Best now, it does sound quite naive and a bit one-dimensional. And I think the albums we made after that kind of improved because I improved as a songwriter and a singer, and the band improved. But then a lot of people do like that kind of innocent charm.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of debut album, but like a band that doesn't really know what it's doing yet, kind of thing. And I love playing it live. To be honest, it's some of those songs are really exciting still. So yeah, I mean, I do think I've been in. Because it's changed so much over the years. We have different lineups, we work with different producers, we've gone off in different tangents. I genuinely feel like I've been in about 6 different bands, to be honest with you. Some of them are so different.
Yeah.
And, obviously done Cinerama, that was a completely different thing. We did the Ukrainian stuff for a while. So that was a flipping musical. It seems to always be going off at these weird tangents. But I love that. I never wanted to be one of those bands that write a load of songs, make an album, go on tour, write another load of songs, make another album, go on, and then just carry it on ad infinitum. I've been very pleased with the way that we've sat down one day and said, okay, we're not going to make an album, we're going to do 12 singles and things like that. And I think that's it's kept it kind of, I mean, not interesting, that's not the right word, because it's always been interesting, but it's kept it kind of challenging, I suppose.
Yeah.
To do this different stuff. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with the way it's gone, I suppose.
I was telling Matt when I spoke to him that when I bought George Best, I'd never actually heard any of the songs off it, but I was reading week after week in the NME how great it was, and I wanted to hear it, and it did become a favourite at the time. But that must have, all that adulation you were getting as the next big thing, it must have put quite a lot of pressure on you for a debut album.
I don't think it did, to be honest with you, because I think we were, we were older than most bands are at that point. By 1985, I was 25, and we weren't kids really.
Right.
So it's not like we came from nowhere at 18 and suddenly we got massive. I think it had been a bit, And even with George Best, even though it was popular and sort of critically acclaimed and that, it wasn't like a massive change. It was a kind of a gradual build-up. So we were all used to it. And I think we were all very, I mean, it's not very rock and roll. It's probably not, again, not what we want to hear. But, I think we were quite level-headed. And, we took it in our stride. And weirdly, I kind of expected it because, I mean, it sounds really arrogant, that, but it's what I've always wanted to do. I've never, people say, when did you decide that you wanted to be a musician and that? And I've never made that decision because I've always felt that it's going to happen one day,
Yeah.
I mean, I still went to university and I did a degree just as a kind of a backup plan. But then I went on the dole for a couple of years, which really annoyed my parents because they were like, well, you've got this degree and now you're wasting it. And I was like, well, I'm going to be famous, Mum, which sounds ridiculous. And I can see why they were upset. But I had that kind of determination that it was going to happen, really. So, like I say, when, we started getting bigger, I kind of felt like, well, this is what I've been working for, really. So that's, makes sense. Sorry, it sounds a bit big-headed, doesn't it, I guess?
Well, no, it paid off, that determination, isn't it? But now, 40 years later, you've been sat hearing other people sing your songs. What's that like?
Oh, in the musical, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very, very strange for a couple of reasons. Because I actually because I do a festival in Brighton every year called At the Edge of the Sea, and every August. And Matt brought three of the acts musicians down with him, and they did a little performance there. And two things. One, it was kind of disconcerting to hear the songs sung by proper singers as opposed to me. Because they're really talented, these people. And I can't believe it because they're singers, they're actors, they can play like loads of instruments. Where do they get these people from? It's crazy. Whereas I'm a bit of a one-trick pony, to be honest. So there was that. It was like, wow, this is different. This is good. And then also, I think because they are actors and they've been doing it for 4 weeks of rehearsals now, they're acting it as well. So they're not just singing a song; they're actually playing the part of the character in that song. And I kind of do that a little bit when I'm performing because it is all about me, usually. So I'm singing about things I know, and I kind of relate to that. But these don't. Obviously, they're so don't know the songs, yet. Well, obviously they do now. But so it was interesting to see how they sort of performed it as if it was part of the musical already, and quite poignant actually. A lot of people were teary-eyed I've got to say, in the venue, Wedding Present fans, who probably came thinking, oh, what's this musical business, and then they saw these three people singing, and it was just like, it brought the house down, to be honest. It was, I think, got one of the biggest cheers of the night, because it was really emotional.
Very different reaction to what you'd expect at a Wedding Present gig, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
You would think something different if people were in tears at that, I suppose.
Yeah.
But Matt was saying that a lot of the story that he's put together, and some of it's based on things that have happened to him, and some that things have happened to you that, apart from in the songs that he's spoken to you about. So to some extent, it's going to be your life on that stage as well. So,
yeah, I mean, it's not, because people have said, is it about you? And I've said, no, it's a fictional story, but there's definitely me in there, and because of the lyrics, and also it's set in 1985 in Leeds, when the Wedding Present started, obviously. And then one of the characters goes to live in Seattle for a while, which I did. And then there's a Brighton bit of it. Obviously, I live in Brighton now. So, I'm entwined. So it's going to be interesting, that. It's going to be, sat in an audience watching bits of me up there on the stage. And it's not even a film, it's not like, I've seen videos of me in it and stuff, but it's real people interacting in a way that's, that involves me without me being there in a way. Yeah. So it's going to be very, it's already been surreal, because I went to one of the rehearsals and I was just sat there, kind of wide-eyed, kind of what all come into place. And like I say, I've never really been into musicals. I mean, I like Mamma Mia, but that's because I'm a massive ABBA fan. So I've never really got into the idea of it before. So it's a whole new world for me.
Yeah, they're not just talented, but they're also very young. I was saying to Matt when I saw the photo of you at rehearsals with him, there's you on one side and him on the other. And none of the others look like they were born in the 1980s.
I'm sure none of them were, actually.
They're playing characters that you were, but they can't possibly have known anything about. To them, it's a different age, isn't it?
Fascinating, that, isn't it? But
yeah.
But I suppose that's what actors have to do, isn't it? When, it might be a period. I mean, it's the end of the day, it's a period drama, isn't it? So it would have been like, Downton Abbey or something, but it's actually set in the 80s. But, for us, or well, for me anyway, probably you as well, I can remember the 80s quite well.
Yeah.
But like, these are, it's like us thinking about stuff from the 1800s or something. It's a long time ago. So it's, very... and they've got and Matt was saying that they've sourced a load of like 80s fashions and stuff for the costumes and everything, which I suppose they've got to, because it's got to look accurate. So it's going to be great, I think.
Yeah, and teach them about life before the internet and mobile phones.
Well, that's the thing. He was just talking about recently, actually, how the world has changed. I mean, it's even changed in the last couple of decades, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we didn't have kind of the internet and computers and stuff until the 90s, and everyone sort of walks around with a flipping computer in their pocket now, don't they? So, and now there's AI. It's going to take all that. So, yeah, it's been quite a rapid change. I think we've been kind of in a fortunate position to see that happen in our lifetimes, really.
How does the world of, now you've been a bit backstage and in rehearsals, how does the world of theatre compare to the world of music, of rock music?
One of the things that struck me was there's so many people involved, actually. Yeah. Because the band, I mean, especially us, because we're a straightforward kind of rock and roll band, really, guitars, bass and drums. We have a sound engineer, we have a roadie, and, that's the show, really. Lighting engineer. And, it can get bigger if there's more things going on, if it's a bigger venue, if there's more of the production. But it's quite... it's not like loads of people. Whereas I walked into this place and there's 50 people there, and I was like, who are all these? You got like sort of 10 characters, 10 actors, then you got some dancers in there, and then we all just stand in a circle and introduce ourselves, which was a nightmare for me, to be honest. But I went along with it, and so and so's a costume designer, so and so's a choreographer, someone's a musical director, and it's a big operation. And I'd never thought about that, I suppose, because, I've never been involved in something like that before. But I suppose you do need, a lot of people when which is probably why it's expensive to launch something like this, isn't it? Because, you have to sort of employ a serious amount of people to get it going.
Yeah, you can't just get everybody and everything in the back of a van.
No.
Unfortunately, maybe for some Edinburgh shows, which are on at the moment, but for a full-scale musical like this,
I mean, if it was slimmed down to like a couple of people, what he did in Brighton, he just brought 3 people on the piano, and it worked well. But it's not a musical, obviously. It's just people singing songs. Whereas he was just talking, recently about, if it does move on the road after Leeds, and it's quite a big production to take somewhere. So I guess it's a whole different lot of logistical nightmares, really.
Has it given you a taste for finding out more about theatre, or perhaps writing something specifically for theatre?
I don't have to, because I kind of do that anyway. I mean, he's only probably used about, I can't remember, maybe 20 of my songs. So he's got 280 there. He could do another one. Well, I don't know. It's a bit late for me to get involved with that, I think. I think I'll stick to what I know, what I'm good at.
Well, you do write narrative songs, and obviously that's been spotted by Matt and probably by others as well. So,
actually, funny enough, with the book, which I was just talking about before, because it's a graphic novel, it is a bit like writing like storyboards.
Yeah.
Because I write the text, and then I send it to my friend who's an artist, and then he'll sort of sketch out all these ideas. But when it comes back, people said, "Oh, it's like the storyboard of the film." So So yeah, I've kind of done that anyway, really, sort of in terms of the autobiography, but yeah, and it's not that difficult. Sorry, it's not that different from writing the songs, which are it's very conversational and very personal as well. So I guess it's all the same thing, really, isn't it? Writing, singing, musicals, film, TV. It's just telling stories, isn't it, about people and the way they interact with each other. It's just in different kind of locations and sort of backdrops and things, I suppose.
Yeah. And with something like a musical, it tends to be, I mean, all the songs were already there for something like this, but it tends to be more collaborative. But Matt said you've sort of left it to him more or less, although he's come back to you on some things. But what do you think about, you're up there on your own, you write songs by yourself and you're up there singing them by yourself, but what do you think of the more collaborative aspect of theatre?
I'm not very collaborative. Not a very collaborative person, I don't think. I think I'm too much of a control freak. I mean, we do collaborate in the band when we're, writing and recording and the rest of it. But I think people know it's my band, really. So it's like this unspoken rule that it's kind of like. I think somebody said recently, actually, that this band's like a democracy. Unless David doesn't agree with it. And then it's not a democracy anymore. And, there's some truth in that, really. At the end of the day, if there's 4 people in the band and 3 of them say, want to do this, and I say, no, I really don't like that. I've got to seriously think about that because, at the end of the day, it's my band, it's my name, I'm the one singing the song, making the record. I don't discount it, though, because often, I've gone away from a rehearsal after that's happened and thought about it and thought, well, actually, maybe they're right. Maybe it's something that I wouldn't have thought about myself, and so I've gone back the next day with a different mindset and thought, well, let's try it. And it's taken us, to a completely different place. So, I don't rule out being kind of overturned in my little dictatorship here, but generally, I think, I've got to be happy with everything. I'm kind of obsessed with that, whether it be songs, recordings, artwork. I've got to kind of make sure I've got a standard now, so I don't want it, to fall, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's I'm very keen on kind of working on that, and I don't mind doing that. I'm a bit of a workaholic as well as a control freak, so I'm quite happy to, put in the hours to make it all work, really.
Yeah, well, I think there were a few people more controlling than David Bowie, but before he died, he did the stage musical of Lazarus. He managed to put that together. So, it's possible.
That was crazy as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He knew he was going to die and everything, and it kind of prepared for his own demise, didn't he? It was, amazing.
Who are your audience these days? Are there young people there, or are they mostly people our age who have been with you for 40 years?
I would say until recently, it's kind of been people our age. But I've noticed that the last maybe 5 years or so, we've definitely seen more young people coming, and it used to be kind of sort of very male audience, and I think now it's. We just did a North America tour, actually. And I was, all the band was saying it's completely different here, isn't it? Because it was, the ages range from teenagers up to our age, and it was a lot more women there and stuff. And, and I've kind of seen that here as well. I mean, a lot of the cases, it is the kids, actually, of the fans, of the original, because the kids are, 20 now or something. But, so it has, it evolves. And people come and go, people, because we're not the kind of band who makes the same record every time. We do lose fans sometimes and sort of gain other fans, So I've got people who sort of kind of liked a certain era of the Wedding Present and then went off us and then they came back, or, so it's people come in and out and stuff. Like people hated Cinerama, or people love Cinerama and they don't like the Wedding Present. So, there's a lot of complicated, relationships there going on, I think.
Yeah, I don't suppose you have quite so many like Matt, who, he said he said he'd been to see you 50 times and now he's made a musical out of your song. I mean, he's obviously one of the biggest fans there. But I suppose you have one or two like that.
And I think that's one reason why he's been able to do this, really, because he didn't do any research, because he knew all the songs. And, some of the songs, they're not all, the biggest hits. Not that we've had big hits anyway, but there's some obscure ones in there. There's some kind of weird tracks that he's dug off the lesser known albums, and then he's sort of done different versions of them and stuff. So he knows the back-catalogue, probably as well, if not better than me, to be honest. So it's I think that's kind of been helpful for him.
And so what else have you got coming up?
Well, because it's the 40th anniversary, the main things we've been doing this year have kind of all been linked into that, really. So we've got a compilation album that's going to come out called 40. And, that took a long time to put together because I kind of sequenced it. And, at first I was thinking, well, it's going to be a double LP. And then we started putting all the songs on, and because there's so many now, like say 300, I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be triple this, because some of them are quite long, and I got Take Me, which is 9 minutes long. It only takes up half the side of a vinyl almost. And then it was Jilly, actually, the record label Clue, who released it again and said, why don't we just do 4 LPs, 40 years, 40 tracks? And I thought, yeah, that gives a certain kind of mathematical satisfaction to that. So then I had to go back and choose these songs and then work out how they were good, because I wanted to make an album that flowed as well. I just didn't want all the best kind of known ones. So it's been it's analyze. Well, sounds a bit pretentious, but kind of analyzing the sort of journey of the band, really, I suppose, through the various lineups and the various producers and things. So that comes out in September, and then we've got a tour, 40th anniversary tour that ties in with that here and then on the continent. And I've always got stuff going on, to be honest. There's always something. Yeah.
Not thinking of retiring at all then.
Well, I guess at some point there'll be a point where I can't physically do it anymore, but I don't feel like I'm anywhere near that yet. So you'll have to put up with me for a few years longer, I think. But I can't think what else I'd do, to be honest. I can't imagine sitting at home in my slippers watching daytime television. I'm not that kind of person. So, I've got no plans to retire now.
That was David Gedge of the band The Wedding Present, whose songs are featured in Reception, the Wedding Present musical, written and directed by Matt Aston, from whom we heard earlier. The show will be performed at the Warehouse in Holbeck, Slung Low, Leeds, from the 22nd of August to the 6th of September 2025. Tickets can be booked at the Leeds Playhouse website, www.leedsplayhouse.org.uk. For more information about The Wedding Present and David's other band, Cinerama, plus his annual Brighton Festival that he mentioned, see www.scoppytones.co.uk.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.